told you earlier about the protests that are engulfing Chile, but it's far from the only trouble spot in South America. Protests in Bolivia against alleged vote rigging resulted in election offices being burned. In Ecuador, the government fled the capital in the midst of riots over the end of fuel subsidies. And when Peru's unelected president dissolved Congress, he was suspended, pushing voters out on the street without a clear idea of who is in charge. And all that is to say nothing of Argentina's continuing financial woes or the wildfires blazing across Brazil's Amazon. The continent of South America seems to be on fire, literally or metaphorically. One of the toughest spots is Venezuela, where Nicolas Maduro's attempts to cling to power have brought great human tragedy. Venezuela shares a long north-south border with Colombia, and observers fear that the tensions there might devolve into military conflict. I spoke to Colombia's president, Iván Duque, about those fears and about his country's cocaine-fueled reputation. President Duque, welcome.
Thank you, Fareed. It's a real pleasure to be here with you.
Things seem very tense between Venezuela and Colombia. Is there a possibility, is there a danger of actual armed conflict between the two countries?
What I like about your question, Fareed, is that let's put aside the relationship with the Venezuelan people and the relationship with the dictatorship. With the Venezuelan people, we have demonstrated that we have an open arms policy with fraternity and solidarity, and that's why we have received 1.4 million people in less than 3 years that are coming to Colombia with hunger, without medicine, with frozen bones, and we've been able to attend them, although it generates a lot of fiscal and social pressure. But we do that because that's the morally right thing to do. Now, on the dictatorship, I have been very vocal and I have been very clear because he's not only violating the Inter-American Democratic Charter, but he's also destroying liberties. He has destroyed liberal democracy in Venezuela. We have supported President Guaido. We have supported the National Assembly. I denounce him at the International Criminal Court because I also think it's the morally right thing to do. And at this time, there are more than 50 countries throughout the world that have recognized President Guaido and the National Assembly. And we will continue to move on with the diplomatic blockade to try to find a solution in Venezuela that is based on 3 pillars. The end of the dictatorship, that's 1. A transitionary government, 2, with a broad participation, and 3, the call for free elections in Venezuela.
If the United States were to talk about military intervention in Venezuela to get rid of Maduro, would you support it?
I have said something publicly, Fareed. This is not a solution that begins just with a military intervention or a unilateral military intervention. I think that this has to be a regional effort that begins with a diplomatic blockade, but also I think the most important part is that the Venezuelan military, the Venezuelan police, who have been also affected by the dictatorship, take the brave decision to ask Maduro to step out and that they become part of the solution, not only supporting the transitionary government, but supporting the calling for free elections. So I have the optimism that that transition is possible, can be possible, and shall be possible for the sake and for the future of Venezuela. And to finalize my point, that solution has to be accompanied by the regional support. And that is happening.
People think of Colombia as the country of the drug war. Is that now completely gone? The problem that people would think about cities like Medellin or Cartagena, the associations and the television shows were all about the drug war. Is that all in the past?
I think Colombia has made a very important change for it. Look at the Colombia we have today. Latin America is expected to grow 0.5%. Colombia is expected to grow above 3%. So that shows that we have a dynamic economy. Last year, we had the best year of tourism in Colombia's recent history. Also, Colombia is now seen as a place for foreign direct investment. And now, I want to put Colombia in the eyes of the world as the Silicon Valley of Latin America, We're having Amazon Web Services going to Colombia. We have now 500 startups from San Francisco going to Colombia and invest in the technology sector. We have SoftBank looking at Colombia as the place in Latin America where they can make changes in technology. So that is the new story of Colombia. And of course, we still have challenges. Of course, we need to keep on fighting narco trafficking. But one of the important things is that in our administration, for the first time in 7 years, we put an end to the exponential growth on illegal crops, and we started to reduce them rapidly. We have to continue that path. And last but not least, there's no country in the world that does more than Colombia in the fight against drugs. When we look at our seizures, what we seize in Colombia is 18 tons per every ton that is seized in the U.S. borders. And that makes Colombia 40% of all the drug seizures in the Western Hemisphere and the leading country in seizures worldwide.
You have an amazing challenge ahead of you. I wish you all.
We're working hard, Fareed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure.
Pleasure.